Practice today is from the podcast from Times News Briefing evening edition of 29th of April. This is the Times evening briefing. Hamza Youssef has fired the starting gun on the race to succeed him as Scotland's First Minister as he resigns as MP leader. He'd been in the role just over a year, but was facing two difficult no-confidence votes this week. The former SNP leader, John Sweeney, who was Nicola Sturgeon's deputy for 9 years, is one of the front runners to take over. I'm given very careful consideration to standing to be the leader of the SNP. I'm somewhat overwhelmed by the request that have been made of me to do that, with many messages from many colleges across the party. So I'm giving that issue very active consideration, and it's likely they'll have more to say about that in the days to come. But the SNP's longest serving member of the Scottish Parliament, Fergus Ewing, told Times Radio there has to be a contest to elect someone other than Mr. Sweeney. John is associated with the past, the continuity, the Green Deal, of which he was the architect, which by any standards has been a marked failure, with the named person provisions, which failed. And I think people really want a change. In other news, Downing Street has reiterated Britain will not accept back migrants who have left the UK and gone to Ireland. Despite a meeting with representatives from both sides today, the Irish government wants to send people back who have come from Northern Ireland. It says they are coming because they are scared of being deported to Rwanda. The government in London says it won't accept a returns deal, saying the EU doesn't have a similar scheme in place. But the Northern Ireland Secretary, Chris Harris, denied the UK is using the route as a bargaining chip. That's not what we are doing, so it's not anything like that. In fact, what we are doing with our policy on Rwanda is delivering what we said we would deliver for the British people, a policy that will deter people coming to our shores illegally. A man pleaded guilty to killing a pensioner on the mobility scooter in West London. Lee Byers has been released from prison just 5 days before he stabbed a 87-year-old Thomas O'Halloran in Greenford in August 2022. The judge accepted Byers' manslaughter plea after seeing a report of his mental health. MPs have been holding a debate on assisted dying after a petition that gained more than 200,000 signatures. Protesters for and against the practice gathered outside the parliament. Those opposed say legalizing assisted dying could mean vulnerable people are coerced into it. But the greatest breach of George Dan Purley's, who backs assisted dying, told Times Radio is safe. Parliament just recently had the Health Committee produce a report. They looked at all these countries that have done it, and they said that they have found no evidence of the slippery slope happening in practice. It's a myth. MPs are not voting as part of this debate, and Premier League clubs have voted in favor of the principle of a spending cap. It would replace the carbon profit and sustainability rules, which have seen Everton and Nottingham Forest deducted points this season. Critics say that system favors the richest clubs. There's more on these stories for this practice. Part 1. And next part is the podcast from SBS News, morning's edition of 13th of April 2024. In this bulletin, growing calls for a sustained approach to the domestic violence crisis. Victorian Premier Jacinda appears before Indigenous truth-telling inquiry. And in football, Andrew Postecoglou says referees are overly reliant on new technologies. Organizations dealing with violence against women are calling a sustained approach to the crisis amid calls for more funding to bolster services. Community organizations say a holistic approach is needed and say the issue of violence against women cannot be fixed in a matter of months, but will take sustained and meaningful changes. Women's Minister Kathy Gallagher says the government is keeping an open mind about what measures must be taken to address the issue. Queensland Premier Stephen Myers announced a 20% boost in funding for domestic and family violence services over the next 12 months. Ms. Myers says the safety of the community is the government's priority. We know that more than half of assaults that police act upon are domestic, family, or sexual violence related, 1/3 of property offenses, so they are a significant component of the crimes that our police are responding to. It gives you a sense of the scale of this problem and the sense of the amount of time our police are spending helping to protect our community from their loved ones who would seek to assault them. Victorian Premier Jacinda Ardern has become the first head of government to appear before an Indigenous truth-telling inquiry in Australia. The Premier has spoken at the Rural Justice Commission, which is investigating land injustice. She says she's ashamed at how little she knew of the massacres of First Nations people on Dja Dja Wurrung country in central Victoria. I have learned much that I did not know in terms of the true history of the disposition, what the settlers, the colonizers did when they came to Victoria. I did not know of the massacres. I'm ashamed to say I have learned about the size and scale of the murder and the massacres through my preparation for my appearance today. The Commission has urged her to act on her words. The federal government has announced a $42 million package to police and other community safety support programs in Alice Springs following a surge of violent incidents in the region. The package will be added to the $250 million funding that was announced last May to safeguard the Northern Territory and Central Australia. It comes shortly after a 3-week curfew in the area, which was imposed after the death of an 80-year-old in a car crash that led to a violent feud. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who is visiting Alice Springs to announce the funding, says all young people deserve an education. We are determined to make sure that we make these right investments. That's why we've contributed $250 million through the Central Australia package, $1 billion combined between the Commonwealth and Territory to double, literally, the funding that the national government is putting into public schools so that every young Territorian can get the opportunity of a good education. Yes, U.S. State Department has found 5 units of Israeli military responsible for gross violation of human rights in incidents that took place outside of Gaza before the conflict broke out in October. State Department Deputy Spokesman Vardhan Patel told reporters at a press conference that 4 of the units have remediated the violation, while Israel has submitted additional information regarding the 5th. Mr. Patel said weapons sales to the units will not be affected, while he also declined to offer specifics on what human rights violations were committed or what remediation steps were taken. Israel's military conduct has come under increasing scrutiny as forces have killed some 34,500 Palestinians in Gaza, according to Gaza's health authorities. The International Criminal Court, which can charge individuals with war crimes against humanity and genocide, is investigating Hamas' 7th of October cross-border attack and Israel's devastating military assault on Gaza. In football, Australian coach Andrew Postecoglou says new technologies have taken away the decision-making capability from referees. Postecoglou said Tottenham lose at home 2-3 to Arsenal and fall 7 points behind Aston Villa in the battle for a place in next season's Champions League. The Spurs had a goal overturned by the VAR and their appeals for penalty were denied right before the Gunners scored their second goal. The Australian says referees have become over-reliant on the VAR in current football matches. What matters is that, as I've said all along games are not refereed as sitting anymore. They are refereed somewhere else, and no one will come with me else. Otherwise, it's not even refereed. It's refereed somewhere else. That's why I don't celebrate goals anymore. I go to wait for somebody down the road. So I don't think referees synergy anymore have that authority they used to make decision. They just go, well, you know what? I'll just wait to see what the bloke down the road thinks. It's a shame. I don't like it, but it's here to stay. This is this part of practice.